Each beep becomes louder and more frantic than the last. Shearer punches buttons on the dashboard desperately. Shearer, listen to me. The buttons stop working. Joan, can't you see what's happening here? Nothing's working. What is happening? Shearer shouts, frustration splintering into fear. You can't walk away from this, Shearer. You were the one who wanted to take this damn job. You were the one who came to me for help after you screwed this whole thing up. You were the one apologising before... Shearer's chair lurches, throwing her to the ground at Joan's feet, terror lapping at the edges of her mind. In all the years that she had piloted the Rubicon, or any ship for that matter, she'd never known anything like this. Looking up, Shearer sees Joan expending no effort to help her. The walls creak, and Shearer's breath quickens. Joan, something's really wrong. Nothing's wrong, Shearer. In fact, everything's just as I planned, Joan replies with a calm venom, his tone utterly shifted. The lights stutter and shut off with a heavy clunk. The engine groans to a halt. The beeping of the dials turns to a shriek, and Shearer hears Joan laugh in the darkness. Hello, and welcome to The Bad Spot, an actual play where I, Matt Risby, and I alone am playing through Ironsworn Starforged. This week's Tale from the Drift was from the delightful Georgie Broad, who some of you may know from another podcast I do called Dead Dove, where Georgie takes me by the hand on a voyage through the murky world of fan fiction. Georgie is also the co-host of the Return to Camp podcast, which is where you want to go if you enjoy hearing people thirsting over vampires and wizards from what I believe is a quite popular video game called Baldur's Gate 3. Anyway, I recommend heartily you check that out, and the links below to all of those things are in the description. Anyway, huge thank you to Georgie for taking the time to write that piece and send it in for us all to enjoy. And whilst I have you, why don't you leave a like, subscribe, and click the little bell icon so you can follow along with the campaign each and every week. These things are really important for supporting the channel and supporting what I do, and if you really want to support the channel, then why not check out the Bad Spot Patreon? There you'll get early access to all episodes, exclusive behind-the-scenes content, and your name on screen, like these lovely people. And one last thing before I get into the episode. Some of you may have seen this on various social media outlets, but I will be back at the UK Game Expo this summer doing the Bad Spot Live. Last year's show was a really fun time, and they asked me if I'd be interested in coming back, and I said yes. This time around, I have slightly more of an idea what I'll be doing, and although I'm not 100% set on this, I'm pretty sure, and you heard it here first, that it won't be a one-shot, but it will be the first episode of a brand new campaign in front of a live audience. Yeah, don't know why I thought that was a good idea, but if you want to come along and see how it goes down, then I'll be at the Birmingham NEC on Saturday, the 1st of June, 2024 at, I believe, 2 p.m. I'm sorry if that clashes with anything else you want to see, but you're just going to have to miss it and see this one. It should be fun. Last time out, Archer and Luna began their mission to infiltrate Narthex Prime and retrieve both the Eclipse and Griff. As Archer sneaks out of the hangar in search of the mystics he can hear in his head, Luna, Cole and the mercenaries engage in a brief firefight with the welcome party, cutting down the Acolytes and Vanguard quickly without taking any casualties themselves. Meanwhile, Archer is attempting to navigate his way through the vast complex, trying to blend in and avoid detection. He finds and is able to use the central transit system and can reasonably blend in with the Acolytes going about their duties. He finds himself in a service area and locates what passes for a map. As he makes a psychic connection to the mystics, the map cracks, showing him where they are being held. But this draws the attention of some passing Acolytes, who upon seeing his sacrilegious black iron compass draw their weapons and confront him. Luna, Cole and the mercenaries find the location of the Eclipse relatively easily. It's being worked on by only a handful of Acolytes and support staff. As they prepare to make their move, an alarm sounds, disrupting their plans, and 3 gigantic robot crab-like sentries are activated to help defend the area. Archer too hears the siren, as he is held at gunpoint by the acolytes, meaning only one thing. The emissary ship and the bodies of the welcome party have been discovered. So Archer has a gun drawn on him, and the alarm is going off. And I'm going to be charitable here and say that there is no one else in this stretch of corridor except Archer and these two acolytes. And this mission was on borrowed time, right? There was a ticking clock of the emissary ship being discovered. And that was the point at which this alarm has been triggered. So the only advantage that they have had has now dissipated. And they've managed to get this far, but it is about to get real. So I'll lay this out in terms of like what's going on, just so we're clear. The Pact, they don't know who's intruding or what they're after. And I can presume that the Pact have a lot of enemies, and the only thing they know for certain is that the ship that is now minus an emissary was recently dispatched to Lastport on a diplomatic mission. And that ship was originally dispatched there to retrieve the Eclipse. So it makes sense that if an alarm goes off, they're going to pump up security around the Eclipse, right? Whilst this is a vague threat, the Pact will mobilize, and they will probably mobilize towards the hangars. They don't know who Archer and Luna are in relation to the Eclipse, but they do know that whoever piloted the Eclipse brought down the Flagellant, the ship all that time ago, back in season 2 somewhere, where Archer and Luna came out of an iron gate and ended up taking down this Pact craft. And whilst they've been stripping the Eclipse or working on it, the crew of people that Luna and Cole are looking at, we don't know what they've discovered. We don't know if they've discovered anything about the Spine of Kronos or the Archive or anything about the Iron Gate network. We do not know any of that. So those things are kind of vaguely what's going on right now, just for context. And Archer has to do something, and he needs to fight these guys, doesn't he? Like, neither of them are physically imposing. They both look kind of sickly, thin and pale-skinned. Even Archer, renowned close combat fighter that he is, could take them down up close. But they do have guns. So I think Archer's solution is he's going to have to draw on them. So they're both aiming their guns squarely at him. But they're also gripped with fear and panic. Like, maybe they haven't seen much in the way of combat or violence up close. They're up here in the service levels, after all. Like, they're not kind of frontline soldiers in inverted commas. They just don't look at all confident in their ability to handle this. So as the siren is continuing to wail, and it's drowning out whatever they're shouting at Archer, whatever kind of commands they're trying to give. So they're going to have to try and apprehend him. One of them holds their gun on him, and hand is shaking with the adrenaline. The other one still has their gun out and drawn, but is slightly lowered as they move in closer. Now Archer has one hand up in surrender, but the other is still holding a pistol, which is hidden in the sleeve of his robe. As the closest acolyte reaches with his free hand, Archer draws his pistol and shoots. Now this is going to be a move. That move could easily be face danger, but I think, kind of inspired by the last episode, I'm going to do the battle move. I think it just feels a little more specific kind of combat-wise. So let's take a look. It says, when you fight a battle and it happens in a blur, envision your objective and roll. And then you get a whole bunch of options to choose. And the objective is just to take out these acolytes, right? You can't escape them by kind of running at this point. This is a quickest on the draw situation. So it's going to be the fighting at range or using your speed. So let's battle rolling plus edge. A weak hit. On a weak hit, you achieve your objective, but not without cost. Pay the price. Luna, Cole, and the mercenaries are up on the catwalk, watching everything unfold down in the hangar below. There are now 3 giant metallic crab-like robot sentries actively scanning the area. And they're not moving around yet. It's just like they've come online and they are guarding the place. The rest of the acolytes are still around. They've got guns drawn and they're hunkering down behind the equipment that's dotted around. And from the way that they are setting up, we can infer that the main way into the hangar is actually below where Luna and Cole are now. So they're up on this catwalk. There must be some big doors down below. And this catwalk and the gangways kind of extend all the way around the room. And there are stairs leading down into the hangar kind of periodically as they go around. And Luna kind of silently motions to what Cole can see. And he's a trained soldier, albeit he's a very different type of soldier to the mercenaries. But he can see what Luna is kind of motioning towards. And she's trying to point out the kind of best firing positions. And he's already kind of worked this out. And he relays that information to the mercenaries with some of that kind of soldier hand signal thing that they do. And they fan out quickly, silently, moving around into position. Now, they have the benefit of this good position, and that should give them a real advantage. Now, what the plan is after that, who knows? But they're laying a trap, and now they're going to spring it. And this is going to be a move, and that move is enter the fray, which says when you initiate combat or are forced into a fight, envision your objective and give it a rank, and then roll to see if you're in control, and there's, again, options. Now, the objective is going to be retrieve the eclipse. That is the objective of this scene. That is what Luna, Cole, and the others are here to do. And how hard is it going to be? I think it's going to be formidable. I don't know, maybe harder? I never go harder. Should I go harder or should I trust my instincts? I will trust my instincts and say this is going to be formidable. And this is going to be laying a trap, springing an ambush. So this is definitely going to be plus shadow. And this is not Luna's strong suit. She is impetuous and she just wants to get on with it. But she also knows that the alarm is going, so time is of the essence. So let's enter the fray, rolling, plus shadow. That is a miss, and we're going to have to burn our momentum here. And it's shit because, it only gives us a weak hit, which sucks. So, burn our momentum to make this a weak hit, set it down to 2 again, and on the options, on a weak hit, we get to choose 1. We'll take the control, I think. As much as we do need the momentum, I think narratively it makes sense that we're in control here because we do have this advantage. Like I said, Luna is impetuous. She knows they've got to kind of throw down sooner rather than later, and I think she's watching the mercenaries carefully moving into this position, trying not to be rumbled, but she's just focused on one thing, and that is getting the eclipse and getting the hell out of here. Every second counts. And the mercenaries, they're just taking too long. She knows that there's optimal position for them to be in as she watches them kind of go around. But she figures they're almost where they need to go. It's good enough. They're professionals. They can roll with it. They can take care of themselves. She brings up her rifle, lines up a shot at the group of acolytes nearest the eclipse, and to Cole's horror, she starts to fire. It happens so fast that Archer can't really take it all in. As the first acolyte reached for him, Archer grabbed his arm and pulled him into the line of sight of the other, used him as a human shield, whilst he managed to shoot back a couple of shots, and he doesn't remember how many shots he fired. But there are now 2 dead acolytes on the floor at his feet, and he is bleeding. He reaches up and touches a hot, stinging wound on his neck. It's just a graze, but it's enough to turn the left shoulder of his robe a deep red. So for our suffer move, our pay the price, we will take a hit to our health, taking us down to 4. And now he's dropped a couple of bodies. He's covered in blood. He's injured. And the alarm is still going off. Could say he looks suspicious. So he's going to need to get out of there quickly. Now, he's seen on the map the spot where he thinks the mystics can be found, and he's just going to have to try and get there as quickly as possible. He doesn't want to use the transit. He's just going to have to use anything, like the back stairs, anything. Try and stay out of the way and get to where he needs to go. He double checks the map one more time. He turns and runs. So let's undertake an expedition. Let's get the next leg of this going. And because he's going quickly, I think we're going to be moving at speed. So let's do it rolling plus edge. There we go. That's a strong hit. On a strong hit, you reach a waypoint, envision the location, and mark progress per the rank of the expedition. So that puts us up to 8 out of 10. And I think he's just kind of barreling down these tight staircases, and they kind of wind down, going round and round and round. And the sirens are still going off everywhere he goes. Now, this is the service part of Narthex Prime, or this part of Narthex Prime, and it's kind of quiet and unoccupied. It doesn't run into anyone. I guess no one uses these stairs anyway unless there's an emergency. And whilst there is an emergency, because sirens are going off, the response is not one that means that a lot of people are back here, right? They're off doing something else. And he spirals round and round and round, going down several floors until he reaches the level where he needs to be. He finds another map, and it's in the same greenish grey marble as before, and it confirms to him that he is on the correct floor. He exits the staircase cautiously through a service hatch and finds himself on a tight, narrow corridor, almost exactly the same in layout, an appearance as the corridor where he just tangled with the acolytes. And those bodies will probably have been discovered. They must have been. But he's trying not to think about that now, because he is close. He can feel how close he is. The area that he needs to be in is at the end of this short corridor. But how can he be sure? Because he has been guided here by nothing but voices in his head. Now, I think it feels like we can maybe try and finish the expedition here. So this is a progress move, and it says, when your expedition comes to an end, roll the challenge dice and compare to your progress. And, you know, I don't feel like we've got more to go. I don't want to string this out forever. So we're at 8 progress, and I think that's enough. So let's roll against that progress and see how we do. That is a weak hit. So we reach our destination and complete our survey. We get to mark some rewards on our legacy track. But on a weak hit, you face an unforeseen complication at the end of your expedition and make the legacy reward 1 rank lower, blah, blah, blah. No legacy rewards for us, boo-hoo, but we have ended the expedition. And if we look at the reach a milestone move, this is definitely progress on our vow as well, because it says completing a perilous expedition counts as reaching a milestone. So we've got some progress here as well. So Bring Down the Pact is now up to 5 out of 10. So we are here. We have found where the mystics are. But we don't know under what circumstances they're being held or imprisoned or whatever it is. And honestly, I do not have any clear ideas for this. So I think we might have to go and ask those trusty oracles. So let's roll up a couple of times and see what we can see. 25 is disaster. And 1. Oh, have we ever rolled a 1 before in this show? I don't know. Well, we have now. 1 is abandon. Abandon disaster. So, I mean, whoever's guarding the mystics, like, I mean, they could have abandoned their post, right? It'd make sense if there's an alarm going off, because there is. Maybe they could have been like redeployed or asked to move out. But I mean, that just seems a bit too convenient, doesn't it? But this disaster thing, it's kind of got me wondering. And because we rolled a weak hit, this is supposed to be a complication. Just turning up and having this place unguarded would feel, yeah, like I say, a bit convenient. That's not really right. Not really appropriate for the situation. But like, this place is tucked away. This is well hidden. I wonder if something else down here is wrong, like this area has befallen some sort of crisis, and not so much like a problem right now, but an impending disaster. And what I'm thinking is, what if the sheer psychic energy that it took for the mystics to communicate with Archer has caused a problem with like a capital P? And like we've seen the Pact using holy water to melt the black iron out of these like kind of poor things' bodies, things, you know what I mean? They're people, right? But like Archer can only hear them when he touches his black iron compass. So black iron is a conduit for this kind of, you know, energy. And what if the effort that they put into kind of sending out that message, broadcasting on that frequency, has caused an unintended side effect, and for some reason that has caused this post to be abandoned. But at the same time, spells disaster. And as I've been kind of thinking about this and talking it through, I think I know what it is. Like, cast your minds back to some unspecified episode in the past. I think it might have been the one with, you know, that was just Griff, and we learned how the Pact were controlling Eidolon travel in the sector, in the Delphian Flux. They were doing so. They were taking black iron gates and using some weird alchemical process to grind them up into this dust. And they were scattering this dust throughout the sector, and they're using it as a conduit for these transmitter things to kind of fire and spark and shut down E-drives, right? Now, what if this section of Narthex Prime that's near the holding cell, what if that's where the forge is as well, where this area is, they're doing this? And what if the sheer psychic energy that the mystics were using caused some of that black iron in this nearby forge to react? Because, like I said, I've established in my loosey-goosey, hand-wavy way that black iron is a conduit to mystical energy, and that idea might be important in the future. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So what if these imprisoned mystics, I keep calling them mystics, they're not mystics, are they? They are shadows, that's what we called them. They were shadows. So what if the shadows' power, getting that message out, kind of collectively as a group, has caused a big, big problem in the Black Iron Workshop? So let's envision this real quick. I say real quick. I had to go back and listen to that whole episode, or that part of the episode, to kind of remember. It was episode 4 of this season, if you're interested. And we're kind of just going to flash back a little bit. We're going to kind of walk this back in time just slightly to kind of make this fit. So bear with me. So there's this huge industrial forge, and it is a hive of activity. There are conveyor belts running all around, and these masters in their white robes, and they're wearing these steampunk mech suits, and they're moving these chunks of black iron through this room. And it's watched over by dozens and dozens of vanguard, and they're stood at the periphery or up on kind of plinths. And it's a large-scale industrial endeavor, and the room is filled with steam, and air wobbles with the heat that the machinery is generating. It is serious, hard work. And the Pact are fanatically trying to rid the forge of the scourge of black iron, this heretical substance. Now grinding it to dust and using it to control the sector. We follow from the corridor outside this one piece of black iron, maybe about kind of a meter long, and it's on a trolley, and it's being brought in by an acolyte, and they have their standard issue grey robes on, but they're also wearing these kind of leathery, kind of strappy things on their faces that look kind of part like a respirator over their mouth, but then also to the sides of their eyes, they're kind of like blinkers, like horses have, almost like they aren't permitted to look at this process, right? All the work is being done by important people, and the acolytes just can't look. They've just got to bring in the stuff. And there are dozens of the masters, and they're kind of working away. And we follow this piece that's just been brought in, that's on this trolley, and it just stops. Like the acolyte pushing it just can't move the trolley anymore. They push really hard, and those old wheels just do not turn. It is just solid, and it's holding up the line. Like behind them, there's people backing up, and they're starting to get visibly agitated as they struggle to move the trolley, but they just can't. And gets the attention of the masters, and kind of they look over and kind of motion to some vanguard to have a look, and these huge warriors in their bronze armor move over and chastise the acolyte, who kind of bows in deference as they try and move the trolley just an inch, but it won't budge. And this is now causing a scene, and the masters are coming over and they're barking instructions, like stepping off the line, stepping away from the conveyor belt in this big, clunking mech rig, striding over towards this stalled trolley and the held up line, and the pistons are whirring and the gears are grinding and the mechanical limbs kind of assist his movement as he's kind of striding towards this problem. He arrives at the trolley and angrily gestures at the acolyte, who cowers in repentance. But the master notices something amiss with the trolley. And on this kind of helmet-type rig he's wearing, with multiple lenses that are strapped in, kind of click and clack as they focus and zoom in on a piece of black iron on the trolley that is now glowing faintly. So this, to be clear, is a flashback. Elsewhere in the station, Archer is standing in front of a green marble map, and he is clutching his black iron compass, eyes closed. And that map begins to splinter in front of him. And the piece of black iron on the trolley does too. But it doesn't just splinter and crack. It detonates. There is a ding, 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 and then a flash. And everyone in the vicinity is shredded by thousands of pieces of kinetically charged black iron. And a siren wails in the distance. And the mighty forge starts to belch smoke into the room, because the blast has ruptured part of this ancient machine, and it is gonna start to melt down. Whatever alchemical process is fueling it, it will soon be destroyed, taking the entire section of Narthex Prime with it. So that was like a little flashback, and we're back in the present, where Archer is rounding the corner and approaching the heavy double doors at the end of this corridor. It's a holding cell, and it's unguarded. There are wisps of smoke creeping along the floor from a corridor off to his right. It is uncomfortably hot down here. He approaches the door slowly and spins the heavy wheel. There is a hiss as the door opens into the darkness, and Archer steps inside. Luna has pulled the trigger, and she has sprung the trap a little early, but we are in control. So this is going to be another move. This is going to be the move Strike, which says when you are in control and assault a foe at close quarters, roll +I. When you attack at distance, roll +Edge. So that's going to be us. We'll be rolling +Edge, but we also have an asset that can help us. Luna has the Gunner asset, which we can utilize. It says, when you strike, choose one before rolling. You can either pin them down to add +1 and take +1 momentum on a hit, or make them hurt, which is mark progress. And I think Luna's going to go all out damage, isn't she? So she's going to choose the option that will give us the progress. So like I said, we are fighting at range. So let's strike, rolling +Edge. A strong hit. On a strong hit, mark progress twice. You dominate your foe and stay in control. So we get to go up twice, plus once again for the asset. And crucially, we get to stay in control. So I think that Luna has kind of alpha striked here. Like, she has hit the targets, taken them out pretty efficiently, and just basically one group of acolytes nearest the eclipse that have been taken out. Even the ones that were in good cover didn't have a chance. And that's immediately put them on the back foot. And they are looking around to see where the gunfires come from. They're a bit confused because they're kind of focused on the big double doors down below. But they haven't kind of figured out that they're surrounded on all sides. And the mercenaries have fanned out along the catwalks, and they are in position. And now they are also firing. And I think that Cole senses an opportunity to press the advantage here. And he motions to Luna that they need to move. And they need to move now. So as the mercenaries round the side begin to kind of rain covering fire into the remaining acolytes, Luna and Cole lead their mercenaries down the stairs to the hangar floor. And this is going to be a move, and that move is Gain Ground, which says when you're in control and take action in a fight to reinforce your position or move towards an objective, envision your approach and roll. And again, a whole bunch of options. And I think this is going to be plus heart, because charging boldly into action feels like something Luna would definitely do. And frankly, it's the kind of thing that would inspire others with her. Or the only thing I think that they would follow is her example. So let's Gain Ground rolling plus heart. All the fours. Strong hit with a match. This is going very well, isn't it? So we get to choose two options on a strong hit. So we'll definitely take the momentum. That puts us back up to 4. And then I think, rather than progress, I think we'll take the +1 on the next move, because I think that represents her getting into a good position and getting Cole and the mercs that followed her into good cover. They're well supported by the mercs up on the catwalk, and they have the other groups of acolytes pinned down. So we also rolled a match. So what should we do with that? So maybe narratively we can use it to buy us a bit more time, because, I did say earlier that the pact would bolster the area around the hangar bays, and I think that there is reinforcements incoming. I think there must be at some point. I don't think we can get away with just waltzing out of here without meeting any kind of resistance. But I'm going to just say that we're going to push that back a little. For now, it's just the acolytes and these crab sentries, which kind of haven't done anything yet. And what I'll say is that in that first group of acolytes that were killed, I think that maybe there was one of them who had the alarm key, or in some way was going to raise the alarm, but now they're dead. So we've got a bit more time before more acolytes, or worse, maybe some vanguard appear. So Luna and Cole, who are leading this assault, are within 50 meters of the eclipse. They're down on the hangar floor. They're in good cover. The acolytes that are still standing are struggling to split their fire effectively, and the professional soldiers, these mercenaries, are keeping them hemmed in behind their cover. Like I said, the crab sentries are just kind of scanning. They haven't really done anything yet, I don't think. So maybe they're just kind of lookouts. I don't know. It did say previously when I rolled the Oracle result, it said they were kind of watchful, or a watchful AI, I think. So yeah, we'll see what happens with those. But I think in the spirit of taking chances, which Luna is wont to do, let's take another one. Because I think that Cole and a couple of the mercenaries are going to make a run for the eclipse, and Luna and the others are going to provide covering fire as they do. So we get +1 on this, remember, from our last move. And again, it's going to be Gain Ground. But this time we are going to be maneuvering. So let's Gain Ground, rolling plus Edge. That is a miss. On a miss, your foe gains the upper hand. The fight moves to a new location, or you encounter a new peril. You're in a bad spot and must pay the price. Well, I think we're going to find out what those crab sentries do, right? And I think, spoilers, they ain't just lookouts. So Cole and 2 mercenaries sprint for the eclipse. They just flat out go, and they're kind of firing off, snapping off shots. Luna leans out of cover and gestures to the nearest crab sentry, and one of the mercs up on the catwalk loads a concussive blast into their underbarrel launcher, and they fire it at this thing, and it hits it square in the torso. And it stumbles backwards slightly before it steadies itself. There's pistons that hiss as its legs brace before it kind of clump, clump, clump comes forward and turns its domed head and tracks Cole and the others as they run towards the eclipse. And a kind of an iris opens on its head as it rotates around, and 3 short pipes emerge, and they kind of click quickly into place and rotate. And then there's this thump, 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 and it coughs 4 or 5 ropes of black smoke into the air, which streak across the hangar. Luna watches in horror as they converge on Cole and the mercenaries. These little round rockets hit the ground in front of them and detonate with such ferocious force that it sends all 3 of them spiraling helplessly into the air. Archer's eyes are trying to adjust to the darkness. He can feel metal grating underfoot. There's an amber emergency light flickering sporadically, barely illuminating the short corridor that stretches out in front of him. And what scant amount of light there is just catches rows of doors on either side. It's cramped, it's dirty, it smells of oil and grime. And there is a feeling in the air, a palpable energy. But there's also an absence of sound. You can't hear the siren that's been wailing in the distance. He slowly walks to the first of the doors, pistol poised. It's a reinforced door, it's bulky and held firm by a heavy lever. He holsters his pistol and puts all of his energy into pulling it. After some resistance, it gives, and with a deep, metallic groan, it opens. So Luna's in a bad spot. The advantage that they all had is now completely gone. And the progress that they made has just been brutally checked by this robot sentry that's just blown up Cole and the Mercs. And Luna can't see through the smoke if they're okay, but she can't stop to even try to consider what this means, because that crab sentry is moving in on that position to look for itself. And in the distance, Luna can see the other two sentries open fire on the mercenaries on the catwalk. So we need to do something, and we need to do something fast. Luna can't fly the Eclipse, so she needs to get Cole and see if he's okay and get him aboard. But he has just been blown up by a robot crab, so we could be in real trouble here. But Luna is not one to twiddle her thumbs and see what happens. She is going to spring into action and do something immediately. Now, I think she needs to get to Cole. He is a sitting duck right now. The crab sentry is marching towards the area that he was just blown up in, and we can safely assume that when it gets there, it's not just going to pick him up and dust him off and send him away with a warning. So I think Luna is just going to have to charge into action again here, and she's going to have to try and draw the crab sentries off maybe, and then also somehow get to Cole. Like, it's not much of a plan, but you've met Luna, right? So she's just going to run out of cover, just like try and get in front of the sentry or around it, like the one that blew up Cole, and try and distract it. So there is some cover, let's say. It's about 20 meters away, and there's like a stack of pallets or something. And if she can get to that, she might be able to at least see how Cole is whilst drawing the sentry away. But beyond that, she'll wing it. She'll just kind of wing it. So she sets off. Like, I've spent more time thinking about this than she ever would. So she's running now. She is focused on the cover. She can see the sentry clomping towards her. She's about 15 meters away, 10 meters away. She's moving fast, but it has a long stride, and it means it can cover ground pretty quickly, and it's going to be a matter of seconds until it intercepts her. But if she just hustles, she can run past it and get it to follow her. And that's what she's got, and that is what she's doing. So this is going to be a move, and this is going to be React Under Fire, which says, when you're in a bad spot and take action in a fight to avoid danger or overcome an obstacle, envision your approach and roll. And then again, we have plenty of options. This is... Now, I want to choose literally anything else other than Shadow, because Luna is not good at that. And the last time we rolled against Shadow, it was a miss. But we are literally causing a distraction. So what else can we do, really? So let's React Under Fire, rolling, plus Shadow. On a weak hit, you avoid the worst of the danger or overcome the obstacle, but not without cost. Make a suffer move, -1, and you stay in a bad spot. That's not ideal, but we do draw the sentry off. That is for sure. But we also have to make a suffer move. So, and I think Luna is quick. Like, she doesn't even look up at the sentry as it gains on her, and she just bolts right past it. She can see the pallets up ahead, and she's just so close, and that is when she hears that familiar thump, 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 telling her that more tiny rockets have been launched in her direction. But she doesn't turn to look. She just focuses on the cover and dives for it. And as she dives, the rockets slam into the floor from the exact point that she just leapt from, and the explosion sends her tumbling over the pallets, landing on something soft. It's bodies. Acolytes that have been taken out, their grey robes bloodied, lifeless. She's out of sight from the sentry that was moving in on Cole, and she can now hear it thudding towards her position, and this plan worked. But we need to make a suffer move. And I think that's going to be to our spirit. We're going to bump that down to 4 because Luna is taking some stress as she can see the second sentry about 50 meters away rotate its dome away from the catwalk and the mercenaries and begin to slowly move in her direction. Archer feels someone grab his wrist. Even though it's pitch black and he is stepping into the unknown, he does not react. He's not frightened. The moment the hand wraps around his wrist, Archer knows what is going on here, as if someone suddenly flicked on a switch on his consciousness. He's connected to what's happening in this place now. He is being psychically connected to the captives of this grim prison. All at once he feels their pain, their grief, their suffering. He sees each and every one taken, imprisoned, purged. In an instant he knows the intimate history of all 16 shadows left alive, and also of the 22 dead. He can feel their immense power, or rather the remnants of their power. Such was the effort of their exertions to guide him here. He can feel them, drained, exhausted, broken, near starved. And he also knows that the cost of their guidance is that something has gone desperately wrong in the forge several corridors over. But for now, given this lucky break caused by the incident in the forge, he has found the shadows. And he is going to try and lead them to freedom. Actually, no. That sounds too heroic. Like, he's not their saviour, is he, really? And as I kind of just read that, I realised that, you know, he didn't come here to do this. They called to him. They finally found someone they could reach, and he is a means of escape for them. He is not their rescuer, I think there's a difference. But either way, it feels like progress to me. So let's go up to 6 out of 10 on Bring Down the Pact. So Archer opens all the doors, and the stench of death is heavy in the air, and he has all this in his subconscious now, what these poor wretches went through. It appears that those who had the black iron forcibly dissolved from their bodies using the holy water have been the ones who have not survived. And those who have quickly come out of their cells. And there's 16 of them, all in kind of various states of distress, malnourishment, and whatever physical violence has been forced upon them all. But they are all still breathing and holding each other and themselves upright, ready to make their move. And they don't have to say anything because Archer feels them probing his mind for a way out of here. But to his surprise, he finds himself following them, not back the way he came up the stairs into the transit, but towards the smoke, towards the steam and the heat of the corridor leading in the opposite direction. The corridor leading towards the forge. Luna looks on in horror as she sees the other sentry wheeling around and starting to kind of clomp over to her and move in on her position. And the mercenaries on the catwalk are trying to draw it off with concentrated fire, but their rifles and under-barrel launchers just aren't doing anything to deter it. And she looks around her for something, anything that will help. And this seems like a good time to do the second optional half of the Endure Stress move. So we took the first part of it, which was kind of bumping down our stress. But then it says, if your spirit is 0 or you choose to resist the stress, then roll plus spirit or heart, whichever is higher. So I very rarely do this part of endure harm or endure stress. But sometimes it's quite useful, especially if you're in a bad spot. Because our spirit is 4. So I think maybe we should roll against that because that's right now her strongest stat. So let's endure stress rolling plus spirit. There we go. A strong hit. On a strong hit, we can choose one. We can shake it off or embrace the darkness and take +1 momentum. I'm going to embrace that darkness all day long, which pumps us back to 5 momentum. And crucially, that is a strong hit. So we are no longer in a bad spot. We are back in control. And I want to reflect that narratively by saying that Luna finds something like in amongst this pile of corpses, something that's going to give her a fighting chance, if not an edge. And I think that in amongst the robes and the twisted limbs of the acolytes, there's some sort of melee weapon. and she kind of reaches for it because it's the pact, like it's gnarly and old school, right? You know the drill. It's like a mace, but the mace is energized, and as she hears the first sentry moving in on her, she grabs this what's essentially a huge heavy metal rod and feels the weight of it. It's about 1 meter in length, and it's got this old brown leather bound handle and a solid metal shaft, and it's topped with a wide cylindrical head that's kind of barbed with triangular spikes. And as she moves it from side to side, it crackles with this light blue energy, and it feels like a live wire, like unpredictable and uncontrollable, which is exactly the kind of thing she needs. And she can hear this thunk, thunk, thunk of the sentry. It's no more than a few meters behind her, and soon it will be looming over her, and it will have her at its mercy. But we're in control here. It might not seem like it, but this is exactly the sort of position where Luna thrives. She gets into a crouch position. She has a rifle slung over her shoulder. She has this electro mace fizzing with chaotic potential in her hands, and then she leaps forward. She rolls over the top of the pallets that she's been hiding beneath before tumbling over the other side, finding herself now underneath the crab sentry, and the legs are stabbing down either side of her as it frantically attempts to reposition. And this is her moment, and this is going to be a move, and that move is going to be gain ground, which says when you're in control and take action in a fight to reinforce your position or move towards an objective, envision your approach and roll. Now, Luna also has an asset here, which is Brawler, which has something pretty good on it, which might be handy for us in this situation. It says if you fight unarmed or with a close quarters weapon, if you gain ground by attempting to disarm, trip, shove, grapple, or stun your foe, add +1 and take +1 momentum on a hit. So we're in control. We can make the gain ground move. We have a bonus. We're in a great position. So let's try and disable this thing by rolling +iron. A strong hit. On a hit, you stay in control. On a strong hit, we get to choose 2. So we've got the 3 options again here. We'll definitely mark progress. So we're up onto 4 for retrieve the eclipse. And we will take the +1 on our next move because we do actually get +1 momentum from the assets. So it's almost like we have got all 3 benefits there. So we're up to 6 momentum now. And let's envision it. So Luna gets to her feet, and she's avoiding the stabbing legs of this thing as they jab down, and she steadies herself enough to reach up and kind of thrust the electro mace into the kind of socket where one of the legs disappears into this armored carapace. And it's a heavy armored carapace, this thing. But there's this weak spot, and it is no more than fist size, which just so happens to be like the size of the diameter of the end of this mace. And she just jams it in there. And she's kind of instantly thrown backwards by the force in this crack of static, and the sentry is staggering and jolts, and kind of every panel is beginning to crackle with this blue light. There's smoke rising out from underneath it as it glitches and twitches, and it topples away from Luna and crashes through the pallets, but it remains upright somehow. It's staggering. It's still a threat. And she's got to do something because the other sentry is getting close, and it's kind of close enough to get a shot off. Now, the mace is still sticking out from the underside of this thing. So I think that Luna gets to her feet, she grits her teeth, and she runs full tilt, arms outstretched, reaching for the handle, and she's going to hope to force it further into the guts of this thing and bring it down for good. So this is going to be the move, Strike, which says, when you are in control and assault a foe at close quarters, roll +iron. We do have +1 from the previous move, from the asset. So let's strike, rolling +iron. Well, a strong hit with a match. And so on a strong hit, mark progress twice. You dominate your foe and stay in control. So 2 lots of progress. We do enjoy that. So we are now up to 6 on retrieve the eclipse. And let's narrate something suitably cool for that result. Luna charges towards the sentry and throws herself at the mace and grabbing it with both hands. And once again, this thing is kind of convulses with static. But she manages to cling on. It's wheeling around, it's trying to buck her off, but she hangs on. And its legs kind of like shoot up and extend, like telescopically almost, lifting her off the ground, swinging her around. But still, she clings on. She can't be shaken off. As she's swinging around, she kicks out against the console and uses the momentum to push the mace further in, and she feels it give above her. She feels that shaft crunch past the outer armor and deeper into the vulnerable insides of this sentry. And the thing comes to a juddering halt. But the dome is still whirring, it's still spinning. Steam is shooting out of the stacks on top of its head, and the panels are popping off, exposing the machine's interior, and it fires rockets out randomly in all directions. And this is when we see that it's got other weapons, and they discharge too. There's this powerful yellow beam that shoots out of a barrel beneath the central eye of this thing, and it cleaves this nearby console in two. Ahead, Luna can see the other sentry approaching. It's searching for her, and she's just hanging helplessly underneath this sentry, this first one. If she doesn't do something, she is going to be toast. So she pushes the mace in again, losing the whole thing up to the handle inside the sentry, and it lumbers forwards. Half its legs aren't working, it's top heavy, it's tilting forwards. And Luna reaches up and pulls herself up onto the dome, up onto the top of this thing, and there's steam and there's smoke and there's flames licking up the sides. And like I say, she's riding this thing now. She's kind of on top, and she can see the other sentry closing in. It's only 10 meters away. She's gripping on tight to the dome as it teeters and sways below her. She is hanging on desperately. She's waiting for something. She is waiting for the beam to discharge again. And when it does, she jams her hands inside one of the open panels and swings her legs around, using her momentum to pull the dome kind of about 25 degrees to the left. There's so little strength left in this thing that it gives, and it starts to topple in elegantly sideways, the orange beam shooting out, slicing the oncoming second sentry clean in two, and its glowing halves slide apart as Luna lets go. The first sentry crashes into the floor, sending Luna sprawling into an exhausted heap amongst the twisted metal. Archer is hustling down the narrow corridor, the acrid smoke making him pull on his respirator. His robe's off now, there's no point hiding anymore. The shadows aren't bothered by the smoke and the chaos. They seem single-minded in their purpose, moving quickly towards their apparent destination. Those too weak are being helped along, but they too seem grim with resolve and focused on whatever it is they're doing. Archer has little choice but to fall in with them. It's hard to see in here. The heat is intense as they head along the corridor which slopes down as they're entering a furnace. Two large, heavy sliding doors part as they approach, and a wave of heat, carrying the metallic stench of blood and death, crashes over them. As they enter the forge, they fall upon a scene of carnage. There are bodies everywhere. Acolytes, masters, grey and white robes bloomed with blood. Vanguard laying in heaps of punctured armour. Through the smoke, Archer can see scorches in every surface, and on closer inspection, see the fragments of metal embedded inside. He touches one burrowed into a nearby panel and gets a jolt, making him recoil. In an instant, he can see why he has been brought here, what the mystics are wanting to do. He turns and sees them already putting their plan into action. Past the assembly line, where the forge opens out into a larger hangar, this vast space, there is a section of an iron gate that was being broken into smaller pieces in front of these huge mounds of black iron dust. The section of black iron is maybe about 40 or 50 meters long, curving around, representing probably a third of a larger gate. It's laid on its side, other parts of it laying on trolleys and dollies. And Archer watches as the shadows start to move the trolleys into position, maneuver the pieces of this thing into place, taking fragments and chunks off the belt, laying them next to the larger piece, beginning to form something like a circle. Luna watches as the mercenaries bring down the last sentry. On its own, it's easily outflanked, tripped and destroyed. but not without cost. She counts several dead mercenaries up on the catwalk. She runs over to Cole and the others to be greeted with more bodies. The mercs are both dead, but Cole is conscious, breathing. Luna tries to help him, but he is in a bad way. His legs don't seem to want to cooperate. He's banged up pretty bad. Luna's going to have to do something. She's going to have to try and stabilize him because she's not getting out of here without him. It's safe to assume that Cole would have some field medicine supplies in his kit, and that's where he's directing Luna, kind of motioning weakly to his satchel. She digs around for a second and finds something that looks like it might be something and gets to work. Now, this is going to be a move, and that move is Heal, which says when you receive medical care or provide treatment, envision the situation and roll. Now, as per the rulebook, we're going to have to try and do this through the fiction because Cole doesn't have any health gauge. So, he's not a companion. So this is all going to be done narratively. So let's make the roll Heal, rolling plus wits. Okay, that is about as bad as it gets. On a miss, the aid is ineffective and the situation worsens. Pay the price. Archer is watching the shadows do their work, and he's starting to wonder whether they're really getting off this station via a broken gate. It seems crazy, but it is about as good a plan as any. But the problem is that the forge, or the reactor, or whatever I said it was, that took a hit in the blast, that reactor is in bad shape. And Archer can't tell if the shadows don't know or if they're just too absorbed in whatever they're doing, or if they're just not paying attention to it. Maybe they're like psychic prescience or whatnot means that they know that they can get on with whatever it is they're doing before it blows. I don't know. But Archer certainly does not want to take that risk. He is going to have to intervene. He's going to have to do something. And he quickly sizes things up, trying to figure out the root of the problem here to see if there's anything he can do. And this reactor is a huge piece of machinery, right? And it's going to melt down. That can't be stopped. That is going to happen. But what I want to do is see if he can buy them some time, maybe. I'm thinking maybe he could shut down part of the reactor, maybe, to slow the process down or bypass something. I think he'll definitely try. And he's looking, and there's this body of an acolyte slumped over this control panel, and he kind of pulls the body away and it crumples to the ground beside him, and he looks at the panel, which is old and weird. You know the drill. This is the pact. It's dials and cogs and levers, and he's thinking maybe he might be able to figure this out. So to do so, it's going to be a move, and that move is going to be Face Danger, which says when you attempt something risky or react to an imminent threat, envision your action and roll, and then again options. So this is going to be using expertise here, focus. So let's shut down this reactor. Let's Face Danger, rolling plus wits. Okay, that is a strong hit. Things are going a bit better for Archer than they are for Luna right now, it's fair to say. On a strong hit, you are successful, take +1 momentum. So up to 5 momentum now with Archer. So he cranks some knobs and shunts some levers and vents hiss and bellow as he does, and he starts to get an idea of what relates to what on the panel to the machine, and he kind of locks down part of the leak by rerouting the power. And it seems quite simple, but it's effective. But it won't hold for long. The alarm lights on the console have stopped blinking, but there's a whole other console somewhere else. This huge array of lights start flashing on that one. He's diverted the problem somewhere else, but it now just doesn't feel as urgent currently. It's going to buy them a bit of time. And not that the shadows have noticed or care, because he turns around to look, and they have assembled nearly a full iron gate into a circle. Luna tosses aside another spent stim cartridge, having administered a third into Cole's thigh. He's motioning that he's good and that he can get up, but Luna knows it's bad. He is in real trouble. She helps him to his feet, and he can barely throw his arm around her shoulder. He's dead weight. His legs are doing so little to keep him from crumpling to the ground. Luna is more carrying him than walking with him as she attempts to get them both on board the Eclipse. The move says, On a miss, the aid is ineffective and the situation worsens. Pay the price. Now, the price we'll pay here is definitely to our spirit, and I want to get into that later. Maybe not this episode, but it's fair to say that she's feeling the strain of responsibility again. Like, what she feared at the start of this mission is coming to pass. Cole is in a bad way, and it's her fault. That's what she feels like. It's her fault. And she's going to need all of his help to get the Eclipse airborne, and she doubts very much whether he'll be able to do anything with the state he's in. So I think that's going to have an effect on her, and we're going to bump her spirit down to 3. And the situation does indeed worsen narratively, because it is finally the time for the Pact's reinforcements to arrive, entering this hangar with murderous purpose through those large bay doors below the catwalk. There's a column of Vanguard marching forwards, their pikes raised. There's maybe 20 of them. And they are flanked by acolytes in their grey robes, swarming into cover like rats. Luna and the others are now drastically outnumbered, but the Pact don't currently know this yet. They've just arrived, but they will soon learn. With Cole over one shoulder, Luna swings her body around to face the oncoming threat, brings her rifle up, and fires. Now, we're in a bad spot because of the hill roll. That was a miss, and obviously that's forming part of the fight, so it affects our position. We're in a bad spot. So our move now is going to be Clash, which says, when you are in a bad spot and fight back against a foe at close quarters, roll plus iron. When you exchange fire at a distance, roll plus edge. So let's get this done. Let's Clash, rolling plus edge. On a weak hit, mark progress, but you are dealt a counter blow or setback. You stay in a bad spot and must pay the price. So progress is progress, I guess. Up to 7, but we are definitely under the pump. I think Luna kind of turns and she sprays fire wildly, and it encourages the remaining mercenaries to do likewise. And it initially pins this wave of new enemies in place. It kind of checks their progress, kind of keeps them from just marching straight up to the Eclipse and kind of taking everyone prisoner. But then Luna sees more acolytes emerge up on the catwalk, fanning out. All the mercs are down on the hangar floor now, and they are all being slowly surrounded. Archer watches as the shadows finish their work. They have gone about this task swiftly and silently. But the second part is a moot point as the siren still blares, and whilst the reactor may have been momentarily stabilised, the machinery in this place continues to churn deafeningly. The shadows have arranged the parts of the iron gate into a circle around 30 metres across. Some of the parts are on the floor, some on trolleys or tables. In the gaps between the larger pieces, piles of coarse black iron dust have been trailed to link them together. This can't work, Archer thinks. This is madness. He thinks about Luna, about Cole, Griff, and the Eclipse. And that's what he came for, not this. This is insane. This is suicide. He has abandoned the others for this. And even if they do activate this gate and he follows them through it, he is saving himself over the others. He will disappear and reappear, who knows where. He's been here before, back on Sepulchre, where he abandoned Luna by stepping through a gate, and he's not going to do that again. Whether or not it's against his better judgment, he feels himself backing away towards the room's exit. He's hoping not to be noticed as he turns and picks up the pace. And he's just about at the door when he feels it. That resonance, that frequency, the gates to which he has become attuned since what seems like an age ago now on Paxton Hold. He turns back to look and can see the shadows standing on the outside of the circle performing their dance of light and shadow. Hands moving, circles within circles. The black iron gate that lays before them in fragments begins to respond. The larger sections glow. The smaller sections laid on the floor begin to hover, connected by the luminescence given off by the dust which fizzes and burns like gunpowder. Arcs of energy connect the pieces, and the centre of the gate begins to swirl with a milky white light. The gate is activated, connected. All Archer need do is step into the light and be transported somewhere else. Maybe somewhere safe. Anywhere but here. And these poor shadows he has helped escape deserve to be somewhere safe too. which makes it all the more strange that they are not stepping into the light, but filing quickly and quietly away from the gate, moving towards Archer and out of the forge. And although they do not say why, he knows to follow. Thank you a million times. Thank you for watching. Please like this video, subscribe if you have not done so already, and click the little bell icon so you can be notified as soon as the next episode drops. And please do check out the Bad Spot Patreon. I'll be back next time, but until then, it's farewell and safe passage.